My dog's job, or so he thinks, is retrieving a ball directly back to me. That's it. That's his whole career. Meanwhile, throughout history, dogs have been running kitchen machinery, hunting puffins off the Arctic cliffs, and captaining cargo boats through Belgian canals. So today, we're going through 9 of the strangest jobs dogs were actually bred and trained to do. Let's get into it. Number 1. Butter churn operator. Before electricity, before steam power, before anyone figured out a better system, farmers needed their butter churned and apparently looked at their dog and thought, yeah, you'll do. This was a real function piece of farm equipment. In fact, a patented file in 1871 by H.M. Childs of Utica, New York, describes an inclined wooden treadmill connected to a butter churn through a flywheel and pitman rod. The dog walks, the flywheel spins, and the butter gets made. Completely mechanical, zero electricity, one very busy dog. By 1832, dog-powered churns were common along the Hudson River, and similar treadmill devices were also used to power cream separators, grindstones, corn shellers, and fanning mills. The dog wasn't just making butter, it was basically the farm's entire power grid. It ultimately wasn't very efficient and got replaced by the revolving barrel churn, which required 0 dogs and 0 negotiation. But for a solid chunk of the 19th century, your morning toast situation depended entirely on whether the dog felt like walking that day. Number 2. Professional puffin hunter. Most dogs were bred to retrieve things from fields or water. Norway looked at that concept and said, what about sheer Arctic cliffs? What about birds nesting inside narrow rock crevices that no human could ever reach? What about we build a dog specifically for that? And so they did. The Norwegian Lundhund spent centuries on the rocky cliffs of Arctic Norway hunting and retrieving puffins, which were a genuine economic resource both for meat and feathers. The best dogs caught up to 80 birds a day. Households kept as many as a dozen of them, and they were considered more valuable than a cow. The physical adaptations this breed developed are genuinely unreal. The Lundhund can bend its head backward until the skull touches the spine and extend its front legs flat to the side like airplane wings. They also have 6 fully formed jointed toes on each foot for grip on wet rocks. Unfortunately, the breed nearly vanished during World War II when a distempered outbreak reduced the entire population to just 2 dogs. Today, there are roughly 1,500 left in the world, built for one of the strangest jobs in history, almost gone because of a virus. Number 3. Full-time canal boat captain. Belgium in the 17th century had an extensive canal system running through it, and the barges that moved goods across the waterways had a very specific staffing problem: rats. Lots of them. Living in the cargo, eating the cargo, being generally terrible about the whole situation. Enter the shipwreck. Among the sailors and shopkeepers of Brussels and Antwerp, these compact black dogs earned the nickname Little Captain, working as shipboard exterminators and fearless watchdogs on barges throughout the Low Countries. The job description was essentially 2 things: kill anything with a tail that wasn't supposed to be there, and alert the crew to anyone who was. Being small enough to get into tight spaces and bold enough to challenge intruders, they guarded cargo from theft while controlling rat populations. But what makes this breed genuinely interesting is that they took the work seriously enough that the personality stuck. Owners today still describe them as busy, always patrolling, poking, sniffing, observing. The canals are long gone. The instinct to run a tight ship apparently is not. Number 4. The world's only official truffle hunter. Truffles are one of the most expensive foods on the planet. We're talking hundreds of dollars per pound. And for centuries, the only reliable way to find them was to let a dog's nose do the work. Not just any dog, though. One specific breed built entirely around this one very niche, very lucrative job. The Legato Romagnato is the only purebred dog officially recognized as a specialized truffle hunter. The breed dates back to around 1474, originally working as a water retriever in the marshlands of northern Italy. When those wetlands were drained for agriculture in the 19th century, the Legato transitioned entirely into truffle hunting. Their exceptional nose and natural digging instincts make them a perfect fit. Between the world wars, almost every truffle hunter in the Romagna region was working exclusively with Legati. Today, a well-trained legato can locate truffles buried nearly 3 feet underground. So for a dog that started out retrieving ducks, they eventually became one of the most economically valuable working animals in Italian history. Number 5. Reindeer Wrangler. Herding sheep is a reasonable ask. Herding reindeer? Semi-wild animals with antlers across thousands of miles of frozen Arctic terrain is a completely different conversation. And for thousands of years, the Sami people of northern Scandinavia had dogs built specifically for that. 3 breeds are historically tied to this work: the Swedish Lapphund, the Finnish Lapphund, and the Lapponian Herder. What made the dog genuinely dangerous is that reindeer aren't docile. They can lower their heads and drive their antlers straight into a dog, so these breeds developed a startle reflex specifically for dodging antlers at close range. And unlike most herding breeds, they never nipped. The Sami wouldn't breed a dog that did. They herded entirely through a sharp, piercing bark the reindeer learned to respect. What's even more amazing is that a skilled dog could keep up to 1,000 reindeer together through deep snow and was considered more valuable than one man. Then snowmobiles showed up in the 1960s, and the entire job description became obsolete almost overnight. Thousands of years of carefully bred instinct retired in a single decade. Number 6. The original shipboard lifeguard. Most working dogs had jobs that required training. The Newfoundland basically showed up already knowing theirs. Aboard fishing vessels off the coast of Canada, Newfoundlands hauled fishing nets and retrieved both objects and people from churning seas, with hundreds of documented water rescues on record. The physical setup for this was almost unfair. Unlike other dogs, they don't paddle. They use their own form of canine breaststroke, paired with an oily, water-resistant coat and fully webbed paws. The rescues on record are genuinely remarkable. For instance, in the early 20th century, a Newfoundland saved 92 people from the shipwreck SS Ethe during a blizzard by retrieving a rope from the water and dragging it to shore, allowing every single passenger to get across, including an infant carried by a mailbag. A Newfoundland also reportedly rescued Napoleon Bonaparte when he fell overboard during his escape from the Isle of Elba in 1815. They weren't trained for any of this initially. Fishermen just kept noticing the instinct was there. So in this case, the job found the dog. Number 7. Living kitchen appliance. Before ovens existed, cooking a large roast meant turning it manually over an open fire for hours. That job belonged to the lowest person in the kitchen, usually a young boy, until someone had a different idea. What if the dog did it instead? The churn spit dog was bred specifically to run in a wooden wheel mounted on the kitchen wall, connected by a chain to the roasting spit. As the dog ran, the spit churned. They were viewed as kitchen utensils, as pieces of machinery rather than dogs. The working conditions were exactly as grim as that sounds. Cooks would throw hot coals onto the wheel to make them run faster, and on Sundays, their only day off, owners brought them to church to use as foot warmers. 2 dogs typically alternated shifts since a single animal couldn't run continuously without rest. By 1750, they were everywhere in Britain, but by 1900, the breed was entirely extinct, replaced by mechanical spit churners and, eventually, ovens. The only known preserved specimen, a taxidermied churn spit named Whiskey, sits in a museum in Wales. That's the entire legacy of an entire breed. Number 8. The original first responder. You already know Dalmatians are the fire dog. What most people don't know is why. And the actual reason is more interesting than a mascot role. Before motor vehicles, the Dalmatian's primary job was keeping horses calm on the approach to a blaze, which matters a lot when a panicked horse pulling a fire wagon through crowded streets could derail the entire operation. They'd run alongside the horses or even under the axle of the coach, keeping pace for up to 20 to 30 miles a day, while also clearing the path and keeping other dogs from interfering. Back at the scene, the Dalmatian switched roles entirely, guarding the horses and equipment against theft while firefighters battled the blaze. Horse theft was rampant enough that this wasn't minor work. Then motor vehicles arrived, the horses disappeared, and the job technically ceased to exist. But by that point, the public was so used to seeing Dalmatians alongside firefighters that the breed simply never left. The horses are gone, the job is gone, but the dog is still there. Number 9. The original postal service. Radios failed, phone lines got cut, and in the middle of active combat, someone still needed to get a message from one end of the battlefield to the other. That someone was a dog. During World War I, messenger dogs were outfitted with collars containing small cylinders packed with written orders, then turned loose to navigate barbed wire, artillery fire, and open ground to reach a second handler. In World War II, they delivered messages over distances of 600 to 1,000 yards across rough terrain and presented a much smaller target than a human runner. The individual stories are something else entirely. A German shepherd named Caesar completed 11 messenger missions through dense Pacific jungle where radios wouldn't function, and finished his last one with a bullet wound near his heart. At peak wartime, the US alone had an estimated 25,000 dogs in active military service, trained across 6 dedicated war dog centers nationwide. It's the least weird job on this list, but it might be the most remarkable. These dogs ran directly into combat, alone with no handler beside them, because someone taught them to and they just did it every time. Hey, if you enjoyed this, you'll probably love this video here. And if you hit subscribe, I'll donate a meal to a rescue dog on your behalf.